How much Bitcoin do you actually need? How much do you need to get rich? How much do you need to be in the top tier of Bitcoin holders? How much do you need to secure your financial future? Is Bitcoin even the right play anymore? Is it actually going to make you rich? The contrarian takes here, some of them also very practical takes. Make sure to stick around to the end for perhaps the most controversial take. Now, before we dive into this, first, obviously, investing in cryptocurrency is risky. You can lose all your money. Full risk disclosure statement down in the description of the video. I also hold Bitcoin and a truckload of other coins. You can see my full portfolio disclosure down there as well. So I think the important thing when thinking about this conversation is, well, what could Bitcoin be worth someday? I'm in the $1 million Bitcoin club. I don't know when the $1 million Bitcoin happens. ARK Invest says it could happen as soon as like 2030, 2032. I'm here for that. Cool. Sounds good to me. We're in unprecedented times with BlackRock and all the other stuff we always talk about here going on. Great. Very exciting. $1 million Bitcoin. It's a lot. It's a lot. If you bought a Bitcoin today, for example, that's like a 20x plus return. Not bad. Not bad at all. Definitely securing our financial future that way. But a lot of people want to make a lot of money quicker. And of course, hey, if you just have an extra $40,000 to $50,000 just laying around waiting to buy a Bitcoin, congratulations, you're probably already rich. Just facts. Now, if you've been diligently stacking Bitcoin for years now, investing a few $100s a week, for example, you may not be rich, but you're probably rich now, and you're going to be rich in the future with that one Bitcoin. Just pointing that out. People like Michael Saylor say that, well, Bitcoin could be worth $5 million one day. If he's right, and there's still 100x potential in Bitcoin moving forward, and it gets to $5 million per coin. I guess no one was bullish enough except Michael Saylor then in that situation. And yes, 100x return is insane. And it means even people who have very little Bitcoin are going to be worth a lot. That's something to keep in mind. So first, by global standards, how much Bitcoin do you need? Well, if you want to have more than your fair share, you need more than 0.00265 Bitcoin. That's the amount that if you take the number of total Bitcoin possible ever in the world, divided by 8 billion, that's what you get. That's each human's allocation, so to speak, but it's not evenly divided. 75% of the Bitcoin supply hasn't moved in years. Some of that's lost forever. Probably 4 million coins could be lost forever. 1.5 million coins have not been mined yet. They'll be mined over the next couple decades, most of them, but it's not equally distributed. But if you did have 0.003 BTC, well, you in theory then have more Bitcoin than every person in the world could have if we were to divide up individually. But Bitcoin is such a thing where not even every millionaire in America can have one Bitcoin. There's 22 million millionaires in America. Globally, there's about 65 million millionaires. So if we took all 21 million coins and divided up equally amongst all the millionaires, they could only each have 0.3 Bitcoin approximately. Not that crazy, is it? But it's not evenly divided up, and it will never be evenly divided up. And of course, again, we have missing coins. So really only have about 17 million Bitcoin at the end of the day, probably, that can ever be divided up amongst everybody. So if you do have 0.0026 Bitcoin, hey, you're probably going to be ahead of most people, because realistically, when you account for people who will simply never buy it or can never get it, all this sort of stuff, babies, come on, babies don't usually have Bitcoin, do they? No, they're babies. Let's talk now about traditional investors. So traditionally, the 60-40 portfolio has been the gold standard of investing. 60% bonds, 40% stocks, usually index funds. Now, that quote-unquote safe portfolio has done pretty well over time, to be fair. But bonds, so boring. Come on, who wants to buy bonds these days? Goodness gracious. Anyway, here's the fact. If you had a 3% allocation to Bitcoin 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago, you would have outperformed that 60-40 portfolio. So you have 57% in bonds, 3% in Bitcoin, 40% in stocks, for example. You dramatically outperform all of your peers who are just stuck on the same old 60-40 model. Your 3% Bitcoin allows you to dramatically outperform. Big. People are waking up to that. Institutional investors, pension funds, people looking to do whatever with Bitcoin are waking up to this reality that is an asset that outperforms, that it is the apex predator of money. The best damn asset class in the world, the hardest asset on earth. People are figuring it out. These prices won't last forever, essentially. So, hey, maybe you only need a 3% allocation, though. If you want to just have exposure to Bitcoin, you don't want to go all in, but you still want to partake in some of that price gain excitement, 3% of your portfolio, if you're doing a 60-40 traditional split, is enough. What about the One Bitcoin Club? This is something we've been talking about for a long time. There's now over 1 million addresses with one Bitcoin. That's very exciting. But this has long been the goal for a lot of people. I have to have one Bitcoin. One Bitcoin, I'll be one of 21 million people who can ever have one Bitcoin. Of course, as mentioned, it's probably more like 17 million people, and some of the whales are never going to sell their Bitcoin. Michael Saylor's got 175,000 Bitcoin stacked up over at MicroStrategy. They're not selling their Bitcoin. There's no even distribution. It's basically every man for himself, stack as much as he can because these prices won't last forever. No, it's going to become increasingly hard to get reasonably priced Bitcoin in the future. We will look back on these days when in 2023 you could buy Bitcoin for $25,000 for half the damn year, and not many people did because they were afraid. I was buying every week. Were you? Anyway, one Bitcoin's a great goal still, if you can afford it. If you can afford it. It's expensive these days, man, to get one Bitcoin, but the one Bitcoin idea is predicated on the thought that at some point, Bitcoin is going to be worth $1 million. If you buy one Bitcoin today, you are going to have $950,000 in profit if you hold on till Bitcoin's worth $1 million. If Michael Saylor's right, we go to $5 million, well, then you're going to have $4.95 million in profits. Nice. Saylor will also be the richest man in the world at that point, if that's the case. This guy, I tell you. Anyway, one Bitcoin's a very admirable goal. If you stacked one Bitcoin, congratulations. You are way ahead of the pack. Way ahead of the pack. There is a place for you in the Citadel. If you haven't yet stacked one Bitcoin and that's still your goal, keep stacking. You'll get there. You'll get there. Before we get into the next point, if you're not yet signed up to Wealth Mastery, it's my newsletter. It's awesome. You're going to freaking love it. We have over 90,000 people a week reading this bad boy. Our team spends about 40 hours a week putting together all the latest alpha on altcoins, airdrops, NFTs, technical analysis, DeFi, the latest news, of course, because there's a newsletter after all. Use the link down below in the description where you can sign up for free. Get sent straight to your inbox. Thank you. The next thing. This is perhaps how a lot of people feel. How much Bitcoin do you need? There's simply never enough. You need as much Bitcoin as you can possibly get. It's not possible to have enough Bitcoin. How much do you need? More. Just more. Because for a lot of people, Bitcoin, it's not what a lot of you may think it is. For a lot of people, Bitcoin, they're not buying Bitcoin. They're exiting fiat. And that mentality is crazy, man, because that means these people aren't coming back. It's like the end of Point Break, man. He goes out into those big waves and the cops come up like, you let him go. Like, no, he's not coming back, man. Terrible Keanu Reeves impression, but you guys get the point. Bitcoin's going to millions. Get as much as you can while you can. Stack like mad because you can never have enough. Some people, that's their mantra. That's what they live by. Maybe that's you. Is that you? Let me know in the comment section. Here's the next take, and this is perhaps a contrarian take. None. How much Bitcoin is enough? None. Don't buy any Bitcoin. Bitcoin's boomer coin. You're not going to get rich off of Bitcoin. Even if Bitcoin does go to $1 million, it could be a decade. Which, hey, it's not a bad investment for a decade. 20x in a decade. I'll take it. But if you have to wait that long, man, there's a lot of coins you can make a lot more money off of in the short term. You can always put money back into Bitcoin later. If you are buying some mid-cap altcoins, they have 50x returns this cycle. They have 20x returns this cycle. In Bitcoin, you might need another 2 or 3 cycles to get that 20x. So you can get a 20x on an altcoin this cycle, a 20x on an altcoin the next cycle, and the next cycle, and outperform Bitcoin. But you're gambling. People see Bitcoin as less of a gamble, more of a safe bet. This is why they buy Bitcoin over altcoins. They understand it's slower. You have to keep a low time preference. Things are going to happen overnight. Altcoins, it's more of the I want things to happen sooner crowd, which is very understandable. People don't want to have to wait decades to be able to enjoy their lives and to have money and wealth and the financial freedom and security for the families that they want to have. I get it. So that brings us up to what am I doing? I'm kind of in camp 4, but also in camp 5. Let me explain. I have a lot of Bitcoin. I've stacked my Bitcoin diligently over the years. Yay me. I'm holding on to that Bitcoin. I may work up the courage to sell a little bit of it this cycle if prices get really, really crazy, and then rebuy in the next bear market. All the altcoins, though, see you later. Bye. I'm not wedded to those bags. Bitcoin's an emotional attachment for me. I admit it. It's true. It's true. You're not supposed to marry your bags, but kind of happened with Bitcoin. Just, one day it just kind of happens. You're like, damn. Anyway, I'm not buying any more Bitcoin right now. Not with cash anyway. Any stable coins that I have, I'm using them to buy more altcoins right now because I believe the altcoins are going to dramatically outperform in the long run during this market cycle versus Bitcoin. Bitcoin will have its moment around the Bitcoin ETF and it'll be a solid return this market cycle, but altcoins will be the bigger winners. I believe that. That's why I'm allocating my money the way that I do. Not telling you how to allocate your money, just saying what I'm doing with my money. I do still get a little bit of Bitcoin. I'm an affiliate for different companies like Bybit or Ledger, for example. They pay out in Bitcoin, so I still do acquire a little bit of Bitcoin. I don't sell that for cash. I just take it and put it in my wallet. And of course, when I do have altcoin profits, sometimes I will cycle some of those profits back into Bitcoin. Put it in the cold wallet. Don't think about it. That's it. So I still will get Bitcoin throughout the cycle, but I'm not bringing my cash into Bitcoin right now. That's the difference. Because I really do believe you really can never have enough Bitcoin. It will go to $1 million per coin. But the bigger opportunity for making money remains in altcoins during the rest of the cycle. Do you agree? Let me know. Peace out till next time.